Hi everyone, and welcome to this video tutorial. In this video, we are going to be completing Lab14 Task 4, which means we're going to be checking to make sure that our virtual machines are able to be vMotioned from one host to another. I've already selected the Lab VMs and templates view, so we can see the VMs down the left-hand side here. We'll go through the process of making sure that one of the VMs is going to be able to handle vMotion, and then you can go ahead and do the other ones on your own. Now basically making sure that the VM is ready for vMotion, all that means is that we have to make sure there's no configuration on the VM that is going to specifically tie it to a host. So it means we can't have it tied to a CPU, and we can't have a connection to some sort of storage that's not visible to any other hosts on the network, meaning something that's local on the one host. So I'm going to click on our -2 VM, which is the one that they're suggesting in the lab, and we're going to bring up VM settings. So let's right click on this guy, and once our menu pops up here, I'll click on edit settings. And there's a couple different things we're going to want to look at here. First one, actually not the first one in the lab, but I'm going to start at the top of the list and work my way down. One of these is going to be if we have CPU affinity, meaning that we are actually tying the virtual CPU to a physical core. So I'm going to expand out on CPU, and I'm going to scroll down here so we can see all the information about the CPU. And this box right here, actually let me scroll this up a bit, is set up for CPU affinity. So if I've done something on a VM that I've actually tied the VM to a specific core, which about the only time you're ever going to do that is for testing purposes for performance, then you would need to clear that, because otherwise we can't take the core with us from one host to another. Kind of makes sense. That's not a problem for us. I'll collapse down CPU. Now, another thing we have to look at is hard disk. Hard disk 1 we know is on VMFS01. Hard disk 2 is the one that is RDM on this particular VM. Now, as long as the LUN is visible to all the hosts, this is not a big deal, but I don't really want to have to deal with it. So we're simply going to delete this and remove that. There's a couple different things we can do here. One, if we do not delete files from the data store, if there was a VMDK, what would happen is that VMDK file, and in this case, the VMDK pointer file, will stay on the disk itself. I don't want that. I'm going to actually select delete the files from the disk, or the data store, because I want that to go away. Another thing we want to do is make sure that our network adapter is not going to be a problem. Now I'm on the production port group. If I hit the drop down, we'll see there are only two. There's production and VM network. We want to make sure that production here is also available on the other end. So we look previously to make sure that the port groups are available that we need on all the hosts. Here we're making sure we're connected to a port group that is available on both the source and the target host. Again, most of the time that is going to be no problem, but you do run into some situations where there are port groups that exist on some hosts and not others. And if you do not have a target port group with exactly the same name, then the migration is going to fail. Last thing we're going to do is make sure that we don't have an optical disk still connected that is going to be on a data store that's a local data store. Now here, this is client device. That's exactly what we want that to be. The only time this is not going to be client device is if you have a VM that actually needs access to an ISO store for it to, ISO file for it to be able to actually operate properly. And if that's the case, you need to make sure that that ISO file is being stored on a data store that's visible and connectable to all of the different hosts that you're going to be able to migrate the VM from and to. In our case, the only thing we need to do here is get rid of that hard disk. I'm going to say OK. That's going to reconfigure the VM, and this will be done in a second, and we'll be good to go. We can see that this is now at 100%. Once the refresh has taken place, we'll be able to see that. We go down and select the VM we just changed here. And in the summary, we'll be able to see that that hard disk 2 is now gone. You're going to need to make sure that you do this for the -3 and the -4 VMs. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll carry on from there. That's a wrap for this video. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and we'll see you next time.